Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a good show for you today, folks. We're going to talk about the rich, the famous, scandal, and the birth of tabloid journalism. You know, we all kind of get our jollies when we look at stuff like TMZ, or we get our jollies when we look at things in the news, especially when it comes to crime and famous people. And, you know, we can point to the O.J. Simpson trial. We can point to things that are even going on right now, the Murdoch trial, things that we peek in on. And we sometimes make stars of people that are on trial. And sometimes we make stars of famous people who have things going on in the news. Maybe they've gotten into a little bit of trouble. It's the bad boy syndrome, you know, or the bad girl syndrome. And we get fascinated with things, and we keep them in the news sometimes a little longer than we should. Maybe we should let them go on about their lives, or we put a stigma on people that have done something wrong. Or maybe they're just bad people and they get caught up in things and keep getting into trouble over and over and over again. My guest today is author Bill Shaffer. He has a great book out there right now called The Scandalous Hamiltons. Had a chance to spend time with it over the weekend. A Gilded Age grifter, a founding father's disgraced descendant. Yes, it's those Hamiltons. And a trial at the dawn of tabloid journalism. The Hamilton we're talking about, though, isn't Alexander Hamilton. It's a descendant, Robert Ray Hamilton. Bill's actually got an interesting story we'll talk about having to do with Robert Ray Hamilton, and it has to do with a fountain, the Hamilton Fountain. We'll talk to him about that here in just a moment. Bill Shaffer holds a Bachelor of Science degree in graphic design from the University of Cincinnati and an MA History of Design and Curatorial Studies from Parsons, the New School. And let's bring him in right now. Let's talk about Robert Ray Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, and all Hamiltons in between. Let's welcome into True Crime Tuesday, Bill Shaffer. Hi, Bill. How you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. So the Hamilton Fountain, tell me how the Hamiltons connect to you directly.
So I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I had about 5 years ago now relocated to an apartment up there near Riverside Park. And this was in November of 2017. And I was out in January, 2 months later, one of those bitter cold January nights. And I was walking home along Riverside Drive. And as I was walking, I passed in front of this fountain. And I stopped because I thought it was just a very beautiful, sort of breathtaking fountain. And it reminded me of something you would see at Grand Central Terminal. And I do historical architectural research for design consultancies and authors. And, you know, it just stopped me. And I even though it was cold out, I looked at the Parks Department plaque quickly, and it said it was called the Hamilton Fountain, named for Robert Ray Hamilton. A brief description that he got caught up in a scandal, and that the fountain was designed by Warren and Wetmore. And Warren and Wetmore are the architects of Grand Central Terminal. And so as I was walking home, I was thinking, why is such a prominent, prestigious firm like Warren and Wetmore was, why are they doing this sort of relatively obscure little fountain in an obscure corner of Riverside Park? And so when I got home, I just out of curiosity, a couple of cursory Google searches, and up popped a number of hits about this scandal involving Robert Ray Hamilton. They were all told in blog form, basically, maybe anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 words. They weren't consistent with each other. And as it turns out, some of them were more true than others. But I thought, what about this scandal? So I started looking into that a little bit more, and I thought there must be a book about this someplace. And when I looked, I couldn't find one, and I thought, well, maybe I'll write it. And so that's what actually kicked off the whole thing. I was not driven to it from a scandal or a true crime point of view at all. I came at it from a sort of architectural curiosity. But as sometimes these things do, just one thing led to another, and I just started going down this path and ended up unwinding the story of the Robert Ray Hamilton and his wife. So,
I tell you, Bill, it's a fascinating story in that, we tend to think of, when we think of scandal, we think of modern day scandals, and we think that maybe scandals never existed before maybe the 1910s, 1920s in the silent film era, when you talk about Fatty Arbuckle and those type of scandals, or, some of the things Babe Ruth did, or, you don't think of scandal. You think of scandal being a 20th century thing. You don't think of anything really Civil War, post-Civil War era. And we tend to define scandals as, I don't want to say sexual in nature, but it does tend to be that, or if it is murderous in nature, it's gruesome, it's grisly, it's horrendous. It's something that affronts the senses. With this scandal, it's tragic. It's very tragic. But it, in this day and age, and we're talking here 1880s, we're talking about when you sit down to read the Scandalous Hamiltons, we're talking about a scandal that in this day and age, and I want to ask you this question directly here, Bill, do you think if this were, and I want to draw a direct correlation for our audience to give them an idea, you're talking about descendants of Alexander Hamilton that were involved in the war. So you have a war general here, and give us a little bit of an idea first as we talk about this. So Robert Ray Hamilton was related to Alexander Hamilton. How?
He was a great grandson of Alexander Hamilton. His name was Robert Ray Hamilton. Everybody referred to him throughout his life as Ray. Ray's father was a gentleman named General Schuyler Hamilton. He was a Schuyler Hamilton. Ray's father was a West Point grad, served in the Mexican War, was a brigadier general in the Civil War. Ray's grandfather, Schuyler's father, was a guy named John Church Hamilton, who was the son of Alexander Hamilton. He was a historian, a biographer of his own father, and then, of course, Alexander Hamilton. And what I didn't realize until I started really getting into the research of the book, and I write about this in the introduction, is that I relate it to the name Kennedy today, right? Yes. So we're now 60 years past the assassination of JFK and Dallas and all of that stuff. And then obviously Bobby Kennedy and Ted Kennedy. But even today, if we hear the Kennedy name in the news, our ears sort of automatically perk up. What are the Kennedys up to? Good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. And in the 1880s, the Hamilton name was very much like that. Alexander Hamilton was obviously killed in the duel with Aaron Burr in 1804, but there were many descendants. They were very prominent in New York, prominent from a business point of view. Socially, they gave a lot of money to charitable causes. They owned a lot of real estate. And so their names were in the news fairly frequently, and almost always in the news with very sort of positive associations. So when this event happens, which we'll get to, involving Robert Ray Hamilton, because it was a Hamilton, it generated headlines immediately, like within 12 hours. And, every headline from the initial stories were a Hamilton this, a Hamilton involved in that. And so that was it was a way to sell newspapers. And at that time also, Joseph Pulitzer had bought the New York World, and he very much fashioned that newspaper tailored to the working man. Mm-hmm. And so he was always trying to set up these conflicts between the haves and have-nots, and love to tell stories about when the haves got their comeuppance, so to speak. And so it immediately very ripe for what we now call tabloid fodder.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Ray Hamilton was a very accomplished guy. He graduated from Columbia University, Columbia Law School, as most Hamiltons did. He served in the New York State legislature, practiced law both in New York City and Albany. And when he passed away, he owned 32 different properties in New York and Brooklyn. So he was doing very well for himself on one hand. And then, obviously, as the book unfolds, things don't go very well for Ray at all. But the genesis of it being his name being Hamilton, that really was the gasoline on the fire of the story.
And we talk properties. We're also talking luxury properties. So, I think in today's society, we would think Hiltons and Hilton hotels. Right. He had built luxury hotels within New York City proper. When and to wrap your head around, Bill, is it fair to say when we're talking luxury properties, we're talking luxury hotels, Manhattan proper?
Hotels, townhouses. He bought when the Brooklyn Bridge opened. That was going to be this major connection between Brooklyn and New York in 1883, mm-hmm. whatever it was. Ray bought the property on the other side of the Brooklyn Bridge in Gravesend, Brooklyn, was essentially farmland and marshland. And he bought acres of it because he knew that this bridge would make a connection between, would bring the city of New York, Manhattan, and Brooklyn closer together, and it would be ripe for development. So he was a pretty canny and savvy developer from that point of view, for sure.
So really, not only escaping from the Hamilton shadow and making some money on his own and making really his own man, but also being a force to be reckoned with within the Hamilton family. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say, for sure.
Okay. So in that, like all men of wealth and power, Ray has his vices. Is that fair to say as well?
That is fair to say.
And he eventually, his vices catch up with him. That fair to say?
That is also fair to say.
And one of his vices ends up getting tied into his life and becomes his wife.
Right.
Yeah. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how that happens and who that is?
So his wife, her name was, she was born Evangeline Steele, referred to all through her life as Eva. And as where Ray grew up in this life of wealth and privilege and basically never wanted for anything in his life, Eva was the exact opposite. Eva was born in the Northeast Hills of Pennsylvania, basically coal country. Her father, she was one of 6 children, born to an alcoholic father who was described as an itinerant woodcutter. It'd be groups of guys going through the Pennsylvania forest, cutting down trees primarily to clear land for railroad tracks and developments around railroad stops. And it was a pretty rough upbringing. I write in the book that the description of Eva, or the conclusion in Eva's town, was that she, quote, wasn't going to be bright. She only was educated until about the 6th grade or so. Mm-hmm. And so she came from a pretty tough set of circumstances. She eventually, by the time she was 20, 21 years old, she made her way to New York. And, at that time in the late 1880s, there weren't a lot of opportunities for women in the first place.
Yeah.
And particularly women who came from that background with no education. One option was to work in a sweatshop. You might find work as a domestic servant, or a fairly lucrative profession was prostitution. Mm-hmm. And that is the route that Eva chose. So she became a sex worker. And at that time in New York, as in most big cities, prostitution was practiced fairly openly. There were a lot of them in New York. People in the trade, women in the trade, full time. But even there were, housewives that would find sex work to help ends, meet at the end of the week. So it was a fairly kind of common and open practice, and it was fairly common for a gentleman like Ray to, spend all day making money, join their friends at one of their private clubs, the Union Club or the University Club for a couple of drinks and slaps on the back and cigars, and then on their way home, visit a brothel, what was sometimes called a bawdy house. And that is, in fact, where Ray met Eva in 1885, and they began a relationship. So,
which, I'm not going to cast any aspersions here, but you would think, having come from a family of such stature, it would be looked down upon by dad, by the brothers, by everybody in the family, that, it's one thing to partake of the bawdy house. It's another to bring it home.
Right. And he, in fact, did not bring it home. Their relationship was kept quite separate from his family. Ray had a younger brother, Schuyler Jr., who did things the way you were supposed to. He met a woman who came from a very socially prominent, wealthy background. Her family was linked to the families that went back to the founding of New York. Very prosperous, very well-to-do, very proper. And he married her in a society wedding. For whatever reason, it wasn't Ray's inclination to do that. So he and Eva started this relationship in 1885, and it carried on pretty much on a regular basis until 1889. Ray was in the state legislature, so he was in Albany quite often.
Okay.
And many times during the year, he was only in New York City on the weekends, where he would see Eva. I think it was a relationship of convenience for both of them.
Okay.
He didn't have to make any full-time commitment. He helped Eva pay her bills, bought her clothes, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think for both of them, it was fine as was for a number of years. Eventually, Eva got to the point where she wanted to become Mrs. Robert Ray Hamilton. And Ray was not picking up on that at all, wasn't interested. And so in the end, she concocted a plan to sort of force his hand into marrying her. And that's where everything sort of starts to unravel. Not sort of, it does.
Okay. That's a good place for us to take our break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about how Eva starts to worm her way into the Hamilton family. We'll talk about some of the other machinations that Eva has going, and we'll talk about some of the other cast of characters that she brings with her into the marriage, which starts to unravel everything in the Hamilton family and how she muddies the water there as well. It's an interesting book, folks. Scandal just didn't happen in the 19th century. I'm sorry, in the 20th century. It happened as well in the 19th century. The book is fascinating. It's The Scandalous Hamiltons. It's written by our guest, Bill Shaffer. We have a link to it in the description of this program. We want you to go out and check it out right now. When we come back, more with Bill Shaffer. We'll talk about Robert Ray Hamilton and his now wife, Eva, and the baggage that came with it. You're not going to believe it when we tell you, folks, that there are many moving parts here, and they are fascinating. When we come back, more of the Scandalous Hamiltons right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is author Bill Shaffer. The book is The Scandalous Hamiltons, a Gilded Age grifter, a founding father's disgraced descendant, and a trial. at the dawn of tabloid journalism. When we left you last, we were talking about Robert Ray Hamilton, a distinguished descendant of Alexander Hamilton, who in his own right is building properties. He is acquiring wealth. The one thing we didn't mention, he's an avid outdoorsman. And
that is correct.
And is out there conquering the outdoors as well as conquering business, and has entered a relationship with Eva Steele. And Eva brings into the relationship, Bill, some baggage with her, quite physical and otherwise. But tell us about some of this baggage she's bringing into the relationship.
So the baggage came when Ray and Eva have this relationship. It's kind of a part-time relationship. It's only based in the weekends. In the spring of 1888, Eva was getting quite anxious to become Mrs. Robert Ray Hamilton and came up with a plan. And she announced to Ray that she was pregnant with his child and that him being a good, moral, and proper gentleman should marry her. Ray had no need to question it. And so through the spring and summer and then fall of 1888, Eva is allegedly pregnant. And in about September of that year, Ray wasn't going to run for re-election in the following term. So he announced that he was going to be in Albany pretty much full time for the last 3 months or so of 1888. Eva announced that because it was essentially her last trimester, women at that time had what was called a lying-in period.
Okay. Maybe
the last 8 or 10 weeks of your pregnancy. You were essentially on bed rest. If you had money, you could go to a hospital to do that. But somebody like Eva, you would go to either your mother's house or an aunt or a sister. And so even now she was going to Elmira, New York, to her mother's for her lying-in period. She would be back at Christmas of 1888 with their child. Indeed, Christmas of 1888 comes, and Eva is returning with a child from Elmira. It's not a child, however, that she gave birth to. It is a child that she purchased at what was known as it's the toughest part of the research for me, honestly, in this whole book. Okay. She purchased that baby at what was known as a baby farm. They essentially were illegal orphanages. If a woman had a baby that she couldn't or wouldn't keep for whatever reason, you could certainly turn that baby over to an orphanage run by either a state or a religious institution. But there's a certain amount of registration and paperwork involved in that. Mm-hmm. What you could do also is give that child to a midwife, and that midwife would turn around and sell the child. They went for $5 or $10. The tough part is babies that were kind of pink-cheeked and rosy-hued and looked like they were healthy and happy were sold. Babies that looked like they might have a physical affliction or some other sign that they weren't 100% healthy, those children were often the victims of infanticide. Ooh. So it was a tough one. So Eva buys a baby. She's bringing it back from Elmira. Eva knows nothing about taking care of a baby. She can't lactate. And on the way from Elmira back to New York City, that baby passes away. After 2 days. She arrives in New York. She's already told Ray, I'm coming with your child. She buys a second baby. Ray is introduced to that baby. Here's your child, a girl that they christened, Beatrice Ray Hamilton. Yep. And Ray and Eve aren't living together. Ray says, I have a daughter, returns to his townhouse. And before he comes back to see Eva, that baby dies. Ooh. So now Ray has met his quote child, So Eva runs out to, or has a friend run out to buy a third baby. The baby that the friend brings back looks nothing like baby number 2. Eva says, "You idiot." He'll surely see that this is not the same baby. Eva takes the baby back herself and buys a 4th baby, the closest thing she can find that looks like Beatrice. And the woman who helped her out and a gentleman that she had returned from Elmira with, the gentleman was a guy named Josh Mann, and the friend was his mother, a woman named Anna Swinton. Unbeknownst to Ray, Eva and Josh Mann had been in a common law marriage for a number of years, and Anna Swinton was, and the three of them cooked up this conspiracy, basically this way to lure Ray into marriage. So after they got married, they hired a baby nurse. Wealthy people normally did at that time, so that was no cause for any, raised eyebrows or anything. And they moved to San Diego for a brief amount of time. Ray loved the West, loved the outdoors. The trains had just started coming to Southern California at that time. It was ripe for development. Mm-hmm. But Eva hated it out there. She lost 50 pounds. She started drinking heavily, and they decided to return to New York. But before they would resettle in New York, they would spend a month in Atlantic City, the month of August, basically, which they did. And they were due to leave on Monday, August 26th. That morning, and a couple of times while they were in Atlantic City, it's not far from New York, Ray would go into the city on business, and mysteriously, Josh and Anna Swinton would show up to spend the day with Eva. So their nurse, Mary Ann Donnelly, kind of was starting to put 2 and 2 together. What's going on here? And so the morning that they were due to leave, Ray, after spending 4 years kind of on a weekend basis with Eva, had been with her every day for 7 months, basically couldn't take it any longer, and announced as they were getting ready to pack their trunks, "I want a divorce. I'll pay you $5,000 a year. I'll provide for Beatrice in whatever way she needs, but this isn't working for me." Eva is enraged. It's 7:00 in the morning. She sends Mary Ann Donnelly out for a bottle of whiskey. And both Mary Ann Donnelly drinks part of the bottle on the way back to the hotel, to their cottage. Eva's drinking. So the two of them are kind of drunk at 9:00 in the morning. And Mary Ann Donnelly threatens Eva with, I know what's going on, and I'm going to tell Ray everything. Eva goes into a rage. He keeps trying to split it up. Finally, at about noon that day, Mary Ann Donnelly comes back into the room one last time. Eva found a knife in a trunk that had been packed for their trip, pulled it out, and stabbed the nurse. Oh. Didn't kill her. Missed her intestines by 1/8 of an inch, but Mary Ann Donnelly collapses onto the floor. The police are called. Beatrice is whisked away. This happens at noon, right? On a Monday. By that evening, reporters from New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, who could ever get on a train and be there within a couple of hours, was in Atlantic City. And by the next morning, it was headlines that not only in those papers, but had been transmitted over the wires across the country. It was front page news everywhere that Hamilton was involved in this heinous stabbing. It just kicked off everything. Ray had wealthy friends in New York who couldn't believe that their buddy would be so caught up in something. And they turned to a guy who knew kind of everything about everybody. And that was the chief of detectives of the New York City Police Department, a guy named Tommy Burns, Thomas F. Burns. He was a legendary character. It was said that 6 crooks couldn't plan a heist in New York without 2 of them being in Tommy's pocket. He earned a salary of $5,000 a year. but later was found to have $390,000 on deposit in bank accounts in his wife's name,
Whoa.
which he explained were gratuities from Wall Street businessmen who were grateful for him keeping them safe.
Wow.
So, in fact, when Teddy Roosevelt became chief of the New York City Police Department, his first order of business, because he was brought in to basically root out the corruption in the department, his first order of business was to make Tommy Burns an offer. You either resign today with your pension, or I'm going to investigate you thoroughly and take everything you own. So Tommy resigned that day.
Whoa.
But within 3 days, Tommy had determined that the baby was not Ray's, that a series of babies had been purchased. He realized came to the conclusion that Josh was in a common law marriage, and that Anna Slinton, his mother, was in on the whole deal, and the whole story unraveled. And it unraveled sort of in bits and pieces every day. And so these front page headlines, at that time, there might be 20 small articles on the front page of a newspaper. There were no photographs or anything. Yeah. So if you had a story that demanded a full column on page one, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Ray and Eva were full column on page one for weeks. And in fact, stories that continued into the interior pages, which was virtually unheard of at the time. People could not get enough of the story. It was one of the incredible things in my research. I was finding court records and various correspondence. And when I started doing newspaper searches, I mean, they just can't. It's like, hearing the quarters coming out of a slot machine. I mean, it just kept coming and coming and coming. Wow. It was like jackpot. So it was pretty fascinating from a journalism point of view. And we think now when a scandal happens, it's breaking news with the crawl across the bottom of the screen, and reporters doing stand-ups in front of the location, and people tweeting conspiracy theories and claiming insider information. All of that was happening, but there was only one outlet for the media at that time, and that was the daily newspaper. And so newspapermen obviously loved to sell newspapers, and this was a story that was heaven sent to sell newspapers. So,
no, Bill, I got to ask you a question here. As you're going through your research, having to do with who's on whose side here. Now, we have bias in today's media, obviously, but it's pretty easy to tell who's on whose side when you look at the bias in the media. And we won't talk about sides, media bias in this particular program.
Right.
But when you look at the media in 1880s and see who's on whose side here, who's siding with Robert Ray Hamilton, who's siding with Eva Hamilton.
Right.
Is it easy to tell who gussied up to whose side on this?
Yeah, it's interesting is that initially the bias all tilted in Ray's favor because he had lots of money, knew lots of people connected to newspapermen, and could kind of feed his side of the story. Eva didn't have that going at all, but Eva learned that trick. She was very adept at picking up on how to navigate through life. And so she started, in her own way, getting her side of the story out as well. I mean, for instance, Ray had already filed, once the stabbing happened, Ray filed for divorce, and there were these, supposed closed door depositions happening that initially went into describe the witnesses on Ray's side of the story, basically. But then 2 days later, it was all of a sudden everything was slipped into the paper from Eva's side, saying that, some of these witnesses weren't credible and there's holes in their stories and the attorneys are finding inconsistencies and all of that stuff. So it was very much as it is now in terms of forces at work to manipulate the media to tell the story in a way that's favorable to their one particular side or the other. There's different methods to it now, but the concept is the exact same as it was 130 years ago, for sure, 100% sure. So that was also interesting to learn as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say that, this isn't a new thing.
No.
It's not a new thing at all.
No, definitely not.
And it's funny when I think when people point the finger at media and say, well, it's media that's spinning everything. I think people need to take a step back and go, no, you know what? It's not. Media reports on what's being fed to it.
Yeah.
And
in many cases, that's true.
And all they do is regurgitate what it is that's being put in front of them.
That definitely applied in this case.
Yeah. Which I always find fascinating, that whatever you put in front of it, it'll give it to you, or it will give to you exactly what it is you want.
Right. Well, when Eva went on trial several weeks after this stabbing at the end of August at the Atlantic County Courthouse in Mays Landing, a small town in just north of Atlantic City, the courthouse is still there, and the courthouse sat about 80 people, right? Mm-hmm. Could fit inside of it. There's a picture in the book, and you can see it's ringed with windows. Reporters were on step ladders outside of the windows, with the windows open and listening in. It was so crowded. And if you then read reports of that trial, most of them have the same basic facts, but some of them talk about Ray being, sullen and dejected, and others, Eva, swanning in like she was the lead actress in a play. And so not necessarily being fed something, but, everybody has their own personal perceptions of what it is. And, even though the media kind of sided with Ray from the outset, there was this underlying question that was basically, how could such a seemingly smart man be so stupid? And people couldn't figure out how somebody like Ray Hamilton, could get himself caught up with such a woman when it just didn't fit. And so even people that sided with Ray, there was always a little bit of a caveat. Yeah, but he was still kind of an idiot for getting himself mixed up in this. So that was a pretty interesting part of the research journey for sure. So
the other thing I found fascinating to this whole case, initially when Eva is charged, they bring in both Ray and Eva. Eva is immediately incarcerated, thrown into jail. Ray is given the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
And he's held, but he's not really in custody. He's there.
Right.
He's given the option, I believe, to stay in a hotel.
He was released on his own. Well, they were both brought into the station. Mm-hmm. Eva admitted to doing the stabbing and initially said, and I would do it again. Mm-hmm. So she was held on, I think it was a $600 bond, and Ray was released on his own recognizance. So it wasn't strictly because they liked Ray and didn't like her. She had essentially admitted to the cops that she's the one who did it. Now, they didn't know Ray's material participation yet, but they were pretty confident from the outset that Eva's the one who held the knife. So Ray wasn't allowed to leave the jurisdiction. He basically was allowed to walk 3 blocks down the street back to his cottage, his hotel, and wait for the arraignment the next morning. So, but she was pretty much, the prime target of everything from the get-go, for sure.
Yeah.
So.
And then the waiting to see how Marianne Donnelly, the nurse, was doing in order to charge is interesting in itself. The charge I found somewhat amusing: atrocious assault, not just first degree, second degree, third degree, not just.
It was really atrocious.
It was atrocious. It was absolutely atrocious. I found that a little humorous. Atrocious
Yeah.
assault,
Yeah.
which a felony, I take it, if it's atrocious. It can't be
Right.
anything but came with a 10-year sentence,
Yeah.
which that is atrocious. I don't know. I found it quite amusing. But the fact that in court, and I don't want to give too much away about the book, they really did try to paint Marianne Donnelly as an aggressor.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In that argument, even though she was a victim.
Yeah, Eva's attorneys. Marianne Donnelly was a tough customer. She was a hard drinker, which she more or less admitted to. Eva's attorneys discovered that she had tried to go after her own husband with a hatchet at one point. She was a tough cookie, and so they were trying to do anything they could to basically put together a self-defense argument on Eva's behalf, right? That, yes, she did the stabbing, but it was only because Marianne Donnelly was this wild woman who had threatened to kill her and blah, 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 blah. So between trying to paint it as self-defense and trying to poke holes in Ray's account of the incidents of that morning, they were hoping that they could put just enough doubt in the jury's mind to find her not guilty. They were just trying to sow just enough doubt. They were unsuccessful. Eva was sentenced, sentenced to 3 years, not out of the 10, and sent to the Trenton State Prison. One interesting thing about it is that the sheriff, a guy named Smith Johnson, his wife Jenny had taken a liking to Eva. So she basically, between her sentencing and when she had to go to jail, she had 2 weeks roughly of time. So they allowed Eva to live in the attic up in the third floor of their house, which was next door to the jail. Smith Johnson's had 2 small boys at the time. One of them was Nucky Johnson. And if you've ever watched the show Boardwalk Empire, the character in there, Nucky Thompson, is Nucky Johnson. So she and his brother, who was the sheriff and all of that stuff in Atlantic City, Eva spent 2 weeks with those boys when they were the future prohibition kingpins of Atlantic City. She spent 2 weeks living with them before she was sent off to prison. They are one of the myriad sort of cameo characters that appear in this book. There's at one point Josh Mann, who's a bit of a nitwit, dimwit, not necessarily mentally all there, was called into question that whether he was sane to testify at this civil hearing. And he was examined by the head of alien medicine, which was that term for psychology at that time, of Bellevue Hospital, a guy named Dr. Carlos McDonald. So I'm like, all right, well, let me look up Dr. Carlos McDonald, see who this guy is, if I can find anything to help kind of Dr. Carlos McDonald, the first hit is co-inventor of the electric chair with Thomas Edison.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's like everywhere I turned, I would keep thinking, well, this can't be true. This can't be true. And it just kept going like that. So, so Eva was convicted. Nellie Bly, the famous investigative reporter, snuck herself into or talked her way into Trenton State Prison to have an exclusive jailhouse interview with Eva. Nellie Bly is credited with really inventing investigative journalism, right? Her diary of the madhouse, where she spends 8 days in an insane asylum. So now you've got Nellie Bly, the reporter of all reporters, coming in to interview Eva, which was a 2-part story, again, splashed on the front pages of the New York World. So it just never, the media frenzy sort of didn't die down. And then, of course, Ray ends up leaving New York and meets unfortunate circumstances elsewhere. So the fire kind of died down a little bit. And then when when these unfortunate circumstances happened, it just flared up into a 5-alarm job again. And there was all sorts of civil action and stuff like that. She loved all of these courthouse appearances. She loved attention.
Yep.
I'm sure she didn't get much when she was younger. But she would, if she thought that a jury might be swayed if she was crying, she would cry. If they thought if she thought she should be laughing, she would just turn on any emotion she needed to try to manipulate any given situation to her advantage. So she wasn't very well educated or didn't have much of a formal education. But it's interesting, for all of the funny and, I mean, not necessarily funny, bad things that she did, there are a lot of people that have read the book develop a certain amount of empathy for her, because she is trying to do what she can to get by. And which was not uncommon for a woman of her station at that time.
I was going to say, when you go through the book and you read her adventures, for lack of a better term,
right,
you do kind of, I don't want to say you root for her, but you realize that she's up against it the entire time, and she's doing what she can to carve out a place in this world. That place may not be a good place, right? But she is trying to make an impression on the world, and you realize that in today's world, she'd be, I don't want to put it in these words or this place, but I'm going to put it here, Bill. She would be the modern day Kardashian.
She very well could be.
She's always wanting the spotlight. She'll do whatever she can to get it. She's famous for nothing.
Well, I don't know if she'd specifically be a Kardashian, but she would definitely have her own reality show.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
She would do whatever she could to get famous.
And 100%. That is 100% true. She, at one point, she had written a play, or had a play written for her, which was a thinly veiled sort of story of her and Ray's relationship, where she ends up being the sort of tragic hero in it all. She just loved it. You couldn't get enough newspaper reporters in front of her. She would, she loved the attention.
Yeah. And really, her life was based off of who she was dating or who she was married to. I mean, her identity wasn't truly her own. She wasn't. She wasn't associated with her own strong identity. She was associated with people she had been with.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the whole thing is, obviously, if Ray's last name had not been Hamilton, a guy and a woman who was a sex worker got tangled up in an affair, and there was a stabbing. I mean, that kind of stuff was going on all the time. That was but because of his name being Hamilton, it certainly elevated the whole thing. And when it elevated the entire story, it elevated Eva way above where she had come from in life. Once she felt that sort of elevation was happening, it was like, okay, how can I use this situation to my advantage? Pretty tragic end for her. She ended up settling with the family after a number of years for a certain amount of money, which she took to Europe and basically drank away. She ended up dying as a pauper in St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village in the city, and is buried in a pauper's grave. Her and Ray are buried about 3 miles from each other on either side of the Brooklyn-Queens border in New York. So Ray, as part of the sort of Hamilton big, marker and all of that stuff, even in an unmarked grave. But so their relationship was quite tumultuous, whether or not either of them really ever loved each other in that sort of romantic sense.
Yep, I was just going to ask you that.
Who knows? Neither of them ever said that specifically. Or if it was from beginning to end a relationship of convenience for both of them that just took a crazy bad turn. But there's nothing in Ray's hand that describes their relationship. And Eva had a couple of quotes in the newspapers at one time saying, "But I loved Ray." And then, and then that was to tell one side of the story. And then 2 weeks later, she'd be in the newspaper saying, "Ray's the most, vile person I've ever met in my life." So you don't get any, she was just saying whatever she felt she needed to say at any given time. So it's hard to say what their true feelings really were about each other, but they got tangled up in this crazy story that just went on and on for years.
Yeah. The book is The Scandalous Hamiltons. Bill Shaffer is our guest and the author of that book. We have a link in the description of this program. Folks, I want you to go out and get this book. Quite entertaining, quite fascinating. And again, if you thought Scandal was just a 20th century thing, you're dead wrong. It really has been going on for quite some time. And this one is a fascinating scandal. We really scratched the surface. There is some interesting stuff that went on between Robert Ray Hamilton and Eva Steele, Hamilton, whatever you want to give her
right.
last name. She brought a lot of drama to this relationship. Even after Robert Ray's passing brought even more drama to the relationship.
For sure.
And there are over 250 pages of drama in this book that you can read, and it's quite fascinating. Bill, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you. Folks, it's time now for us to lighten it up a bit. We're going to bring in Beer City Bruiser, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, the time you've all been looking forward to on True Crime Tuesday. It's time for Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals, and for that we need a co-host. We go out and get the co-host with the most, the BCB, the Big Cuddly Bear, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, Cruiser. I'm hanging in there. Nothing too exciting to report.
My gosh, we need to put a firecracker under your ass or something, buddy. Come on, it's Tuesday. It's that time. You know something? You know what it is? I think I got it figured out. You went and celebrated 420, didn't you? You're a little mellow right now. That's what it is, isn't it?
I had a few of those. Yeah. No, okay. I'm mellow because I'm tired. I was local for the wrestling show, and Mrs. Bruiser wanted me to go out and do some yard work. So we had the puppies outside and just making the yard look nice. And
so you're playing worn out.
Oh, you know how it is owning a home. Just home ownership. You got to keep up on stuff. So
you've had weather where you can actually keep up with the yard.
Yes, we have.
As I sit here and as I live and breathe, it is 39 degrees in the Twin Cities.
You still have snow?
No. The snow has gone away.
The snow finally went away. Okay.
Yeah, we actually hit a high of like 48 or something yesterday. But no, it's just winter won't go away. It won't go away. Spring is in official hibernation. I think we'll officially hit summer somewhere around August.
Yeah,
and we'll have it for a month, and then we'll go right into fall.
See, I don't miss that. I'm fine with this weather. I'm even though it was backbreaking labor, something to be proud to look back and go, hey, we did that.
I'm not a hot weather guy. I despise hot, humid weather.
Okay.
And I despise the peak of heat and humidity in Minnesota. It's the worst thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
It's worse than Floridian heat and humidity.
Because you got all those lakes.
Yeah, it is. But To be honest with you, even me, who's the king of the cold, I'm getting a little depressed right now. I'm not going to lie. I miss my spring. I miss my chippers. I miss
because you miss sitting out on the front porch feeding the chipmunks, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Because I'll take, the different authors we have on the program. I'll sit outside and I'll have either a cup of Joe or a bottle of water or whatever. I'll sit outside and I'll keep my almonds outside and I'll feed the chippers and I'll read a book and I'll spend an afternoon out there. It's just nice. And
nothing beats being outside. I love being outside.
Yeah. And I can't do that. I can't sit outside and watch the world go by and, kids outside playing or watching my neighbors give me dirty looks. I can't do that. I can't do that, Bruiser. And that's unfortunate. I can't flip off my neighbors either, which, I don't do that.
I like all my neighbors. I don't flip any of them off.
They give me weird looks, like I'm the old pervert on the block or something. I don't know. I mean them no harm. Half the time I can't walk off the porch and go greet them. I think that's what it is, because See,
you need a Mrs. Bruiser in your life. She as much as she hates interacting with people, she's real friendly to all the neighbors. So by proxy, they think I'm a cool guy too.
See, that's what it is.
But all I do is I'll take the puppies outside. I'll just give a wave. That's all I do. It's just a wave.
I'll wave them up, but then I offer them candy. Is that what it is? Is that the weird thing?
I think that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should have a beverage or something. I'm like, come on up and get some candy. I have a van too. Is that the other thing?
The van and the candy and the duct tape.
Oh yeah, I keep the duct tape around because it's easy to fix stuff with.
Right, but they don't know that. They don't know that. No, and the video camera and just
Well, that's because I like to capture their image.
It's security, right?
It's security. Yeah, I mean, I'm part of the crime watch in the neighborhood, so I keep a video.
See, they think you're part of the crime.
Oh, well, I think we figured out what my problem is in the neighborhood then. I have to change my ways, I guess.
I guess so.
Today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, it's the after 420 edition. It covers the week of 420, and let me tell you, people all over, including Florida, celebrated, Bruiser. It's, let's just put it this way. It was a dangerous week. Nobody took my advice when I wished everybody a happy 420 and stay at home and enjoy. Nobody stayed at home and enjoyed. Everybody, I think, hit the road and caused some damage. So, boy, we got stories for you. We've got famous people who cause damage. We've got animals that cause damage.
Oh, of course we do.
Yeah.
Because Cocaine Bear just premiered on Peacock, so the animals are all fired up.
Yeah, they are. They're out to try it themselves. And we've got police officers that cause damage.
Oh.
Yeah. It's all coming up here in the program. Let's start it off right away, shall we? We don't want to disappoint anybody. We want to get right to it. We're going to start out slow, Bruiser. We're going to start with the world of streaming.
Oh, okay. Like Twitch and TikTok and all that.
And Netflix. Here's the deal.
Oh.
If you want to be in a true crime documentary, Bruiser, I mean, a lot of us out there are fans of the true crime documentaries.
Oh, huge fan, yeah.
A lot of us say, well, we don't want to be a victim. So that's one. You don't want to be in a true crime documentary that way. You don't want to be the killer, too. So
true.
You don't want to be involved that way. Maybe we can be filmed in the background so we could tell our kids and our neighbors and our friends, hey, you know what? That's me in the background right there. That's me in the corner losing my religion right there. That's me, right? Well, here's the deal. Be alarmed, be very alarmed, or be aware that sometimes you can be in the background of a documentary and you may not know it. Now, that could be a claim to fame, okay? Hey, you know what?
I've been in the background of some documentaries and I didn't know until people tweeted out to me, hey, there's Bruiser sitting in the background. I was like, oh, I didn't even know they were filming.
Yeah, see? Now,
did I have clothes on? That's my only question. Was I nude?
If you've been in the background of a documentary, are you offended by that? Or is it one of those, hey, you know what? I'm in the background of a documentary. No big deal.
I'm just hey, I'm in the background. No big deal. Didn't know they were filming. Hope I was, fully clothed.
Exactly. Hopefully I'm fully clothed and sober and things are good. Right?
I can't guarantee sober, but I was fully clothed.
Okay. Well, a Kentucky man has filed a lawsuit against Netflix after his photo was used in a true crime documentary about Caleb Kai McGilvery, I believe, titled The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker.
Okay. I watched that documentary. It was really good.
Did you? Okay. Well, this guy is in it, and he's not happy that he's in it. The documentary details how McGilvery went from a viral internet sensation to a convicted killer. A 27-year-old respiratory therapist by the name of Taylor Hazelwood had never heard of the documentary until his friends started reaching out to him after seeing a photograph of him holding a hatchet on the show. Now, that's one of those bad scenes you don't want to be involved in.
Yeah, but you know what? If you post it on social media, anybody can use it. And that's kind of what they did, was they posted social media clips, people commenting on this kid and people with pictures and stuff. So I'm assuming that's what it was a part of.
Yeah. See, okay. So he was the dumbass who did that.
Yeah. See, okay. I have a friend who he's actually a picture on the Sons of Anarchy TV show. Really? When the FBI is looking into the Sons of Anarchy, they have this wall of the known Sam Crow people, and you got all the actors and stuff on top, but then on the bottom they just filled it in with extra pictures. Really? Well, we ended up pausing on one because we're like, that looks a lot like our friend Jet, and you zoomed it, sure enough, it was him. It was his profile picture on Facebook. Really? Yeah, he'd done a profile picture because he's wearing it's like a mug shot, but it was a funny mug shot, you know. And they must have thought he looked like a biker because they threw his picture right. I said, man, you're part of Sam Crow now. That's really cool, though. That's kind of an institution when it comes to great dramas. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. See, that's an awesome example of being included in something. Yeah, I think being included with this, holding a hatchet you're not the killer. You're just rooting for him. That's true. Hazelwood had forgotten about the photo that he posted on Instagram back in 2019, like Bruiser pointed out. Now, he was forced to answer questions from his friends, family, and coworkers about why his photo was used in a documentary about a convicted murderer. Hazelwood is, of course, beyond angry that Netflix would implicate and connect him to such a salacious and infamous story and individual, the lawsuit states. I don't know that we should go that far. That's going to go on for the rest of his life, Hazelwood attorney Angela Buchanan told the Washington Post. I think that's going a little far, too. Yeah. Hazelwood is seeking $1 million in damages. Oh, so he's just going for the money grab. Exactly, from Netflix. McGilvery has also filed a lawsuit against Netflix over the show. He is seeking $1.3 million for ruthlessly exploiting a hero's life story for money. Boy, the bullshit is piling high on this one. It's piling really high. Wow. So $2.3 million overall because little boy got exposed for being a stupid ass on Instagram. Yeah. So what the document's about is originally this kid saves a woman by hitting a guy in the head with a hatchet. Mm-hmm. And so he just becomes this viral meme because of what he says. And that's why they're showing all the pictures and stuff on social media, is because people are like, oh, yeah, way to go, hatchet guy. And they're, they all got hatchets and they're doing whatever. Yeah. At the time that they posted the pictures, he didn't know he was going to go murder somebody afterwards. How do you know? Right. There's no way you can know. Yeah. So this is a stretch. Stretch indeed. We go from the dumbass suing Netflix and trying to get famous that way to the famous creating and committing a crime. Oh, yeah. Well, they do that. Yeah. This might be 420 related. Oh, okay. Pete Davidson, who's been known to imbibe a time or two and has been in rehab because of it, could still face charges for crashing his car into a Beverly Hills home. Really? See, now, normally when you hear Pete Davidson news, it's always good news. This is a twist. You think? I don't know. I've heard some. Well, I mean, it's normally dating life news the last. I was gonna say that's all his romantic life, him and Kim and all that. True. I mean, although he hasn't been with Kim for quite some time, you're kind of showing your age there, Bruiser. I'm just saying. Well, I just like the beef he had with Kanye because they just go back and forth. That was funny. That was fun. Pete Davidson could soon learn if he is facing criminal charges more than 7 weeks after he crashed his car. Okay, it wasn't 420 at the time. It might have been for him. He is doing a lot of Taco Bell commercials lately. Yeah. More than 7 weeks after he crashed his car into a Beverly Hills home, according to a report Monday. Law enforcement resources told TMZ that cops only recently wrapped the investigation into Davidson's late-night March 4th crash with actress girlfriend
Chase, is it Suey Wonders? I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
I'm getting old, too. Riding shotgun. The 29-year-old Saturday Night Live alum was driving at a high rate of speed when he jumped a curb and smashed into the corner of a house, sources previously told the same outlet. The case is now being reviewed by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office for possible criminal charges. The office typically only deals with felony cases, but can handle misdemeanor charges in Beverly Hills. No one has been injured in the crash, including a 16-year-old girl who was home alone when the funny man crashed into the corner of her living room. Imagine that. You're just hanging out at home one night, and through your living room comes Pete Davidson.
What's the protocol on getting a selfie and an autograph? Like, does he kind of owe you that?
I think he does, yeah. As long as he's not, injured. I think, I think it's okay.
Yeah, so basically you just go, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Cool, selfie? Huh? Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. The young teen was a bit traumatized, having been convinced the boom of the crash was the start of an earthquake. Her dad previously told the same outlet. Well, I think that's a pleasant surprise if you think the boom is an earthquake and here's Pete Davidson in your living room. I think that's actually a blessing in disguise.
She must have thought she was dreaming.
Yeah. Dreaming or a small nightmare. Yeah. Another boom that wasn't so good. Okay. This one also a truck or a car. A man crashed a truck trying to light up his marijuana on 420 on Weed Day.
Just pull over to light up.
Yeah. We go to Iola, Kansas, where they aren't exactly bright when it comes to sparking one up.
No, they're not.
No. A man taking part in what this article says is quote unquote Weed Day. By the way, if you ever watch Last Night with John Oliver.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you got to watch those shows.
It's on HBO, right?
Yeah, it's or now it's going to be Max, what they're calling it in May. They're changing the name of HBO Max to Max.
Okay.
Dude, they showed the different ways that news crews call 420. It was just funny. And Stephen Colbert did something similar too. A lot of the comedians kind of make fun of news crews and the way that they address 420. And it's some of the sayings are just corny and funny.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Weed Day.
Yeah, Weed Day. A man taking part in quote unquote Weed Day.
Boy, that's how they celebrate there in Kentucky.
Kansas, Weed Day.
Kansas, yes.
They spark up the devil's lettuce on Weed Day.
Ended up crashing his truck while trying to light the marijuana cigarette.
He was taking the devil's lettuce and lighting it up. He was sparking one, as the kids say.
That's right.
The criminal's cabbage. The Allen County Sheriff's Office in Kansas said the 30-year-old was behind the wheel on his Ford Ranger. He drives a Ford Ranger on April 20th on 420. The man told authorities that he was driving with his knees and lost control as he was driving home from work on U.S. Highway 54 just west of Gas. There's a Gas, Kansas?
I guess so.
Yeah, if you're at the point where you need it so badly that you're driving with your knees and you're not skilled with driving your knees, I think you could probably find a gas station somewhere.
Or just pull over. It takes, 2 seconds?
Yeah. Well, he's probably afraid that the cops will pull over thinking he needs help.
Yeah, but again, it's 2 seconds. You pull over, spark up, drive again. You're good. It's not like he's smoking the whole joint while he's driving, parked.
Was he filling it up or was he rolling?
Yeah. If he was trying to fill it up, then you go to a gas station. But if he's just lighting it.
Yeah, exactly.
You should roll a joint while you're driving.
Yeah, that's talent if you can do that.
That is good talent. I watched a friend try and do that, and we pulled over.
Yeah. Authorities said somehow the man did not hit any vehicles, even as he crossed 3 lanes, went into a ditch, and slammed into a cement culvert, a large fence corner post, a telephone junction box, and a utility pole.
Oh,
wow!
And a partridge in a pear tree, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he took out half of Kansas on his way into the ditch. Not wearing a seatbelt, he was tossed around inside the cab and received minor injuries. Boy, talk about uncoordinated.
I just picture like a slow-mo, like a movie slow motion where he's driving through and it's him bouncing and the weed coming up on one side and his lighter coming up on the other and the rolling papers coming up.
He's trying to grab for each one, not paying attention to the steering wheel or where the truck is going.
Yep.
And then you hear him going, more weed. Yeah. The driver was taken into custody and charged with possession of various drugs and paraphernalia. The exact origins of the 420 holiday are unknown. Oh, no, they're known. We know about it. There is an origin to it.
Yes.
Yeah. But many believe it originated in California in the 1970s. This is part of the origin, actually, when teenagers would ritualistically smoke marijuana at 420 each day. And the term 420 ultimately became synonymous with the drug and promoted by bands like the Grateful Dead. Now, the idea was that they were supposed to get together at 3:20 after class and go out back and smoke, but they forgot, so they made it 4:20. Of course, the other caveat of 4:20 being it's Hitler's birthday.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, there's that has nothing to do with the actual day, though. But it's kind of a bit of irony.
And he wasn't a big marijuana user. He was a big methamphetamine user.
Yes. Yeah. He took the injections from Dr. Mengele.
I just recently discovered that.
Yeah. Well, Kennedy also got those injections.
I see now that I didn't know either.
Yeah. We had a doctor on, it was years ago, who talked about that.
Really?
Yeah, there's they didn't call him Dr. Death. That was Steve Williams, by the way. But but the doctor was known as Dr. Death. He worked for the Nazi regime, and then he came into the U.S. government after World War II, and he gave those same shots to Kennedy because Kennedy had a secret disease behind the scenes.
And they thought meth would cure it?
Well, they had no idea. Yeah,
that's true. This is the 50s and 40s and 60s, so they didn't know what meth was. They just thought, hey.
Well, meth would give you the energy to keep going, essentially.
Those were essentially diet pills back then, right? Well, didn't Judy Garland?
No, he used it as an injection.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It was in an injectable form. So Hitler took it as an injection, and so did JFK. Okay. Marilyn Monroe as well, I believe.
I thought Marilyn was the diet pills. Her and Judy Garland were diet pills.
She did do diet pills, but it was, I think, the Kennedys that introduced her to this doctor.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Look at that. We're finding origins all over the place.
I got to find out what that program was, and I'll be able to direct you guys to it once I find it. We have a vast archive. Takes me a minute.
Which we can get on the darknessradioshow.com, right?
That's right, darknessradioshow.com. That's right. We continue on. Speaking of meth, Bruiser, a suspect escapes with nearly 60 pounds of it in an undercover Riverside County operation.
That's a lot of meth.
And he got it from the cops. Here we go. Authorities are searching for a suspect who escaped with nearly 60 pounds of meth during an undercover operation in Riverside County. This is kind of a Keystone Cops situation. The Riverside County Sheriff's operation was aimed at identifying narcotics traffickers. During the operation, undercover officers met with a suspect who wanted to purchase 27 kilos of methamphetamine.
That's a lot of methamphetamine.
Yes, it is. After the transaction, the suspect drove away from deputies and did not yield when deputies attempted to pull them over. The suspect led deputies on a pursuit and reached high speeds at one point. Due to the high speeds and suspect's disregard for public safety, deputies lost sight of the vehicle, that according to officials. The suspect remains at large as the investigation is ongoing. No further details were released. Anyone with information on this case is encouraged to contact the captain, who now has his chin firmly in his chest, Rob Ragavine, at 951-955-1700. He's hoping that maybe you could catch the criminals.
Somebody forgot to let that undercover cop know that you don't actually sell them the drugs.
That's right. That's right. Let's see here. We'll move on. It turns out, now this one's funny, Bruiser. So, Bruiser, I pulled this story because I need your expert opinion on this story.
I can try and give you an expert opinion.
Okay. So, We go to Spain.
Espanol.
Yes, Espanol. Where there's a court case pending, or actually I think they might have come to a decision on it, where a Spanish firm was ruled wrong to fire an electrician for drinking alcohol during the workday and being fired for it. The reason being they couldn't prove he was drunk on the job. All right.
Okay.
There's a fine line in Spain between having a few drinks and being schnockered.
I guess so, especially when you're on the job.
Yeah, right. A high court found an electrical company had not proved a man was drunk after he was seen drinking beer, wine, and brandy at lunch.
Well, look at him. At least he was on lunch.
That's a liquid lunch if I've ever heard of one.
Getting those carbs.
Yeah, that's right. A Spanish court has ruled that a company was wrong to fire an electrician who may have drunk more than 3 liters of beer in one day.
Wow.
Because it had not proved that his consumption had left him inebriated, intoxicated, or drunk, or unable to do his job. I'm unable to do my job just reading this. I feel like I'm intoxicated reading this story.
I was going to say, I got a little buzz going on right now reading the story.
The High Court in the southeastern region of Murcia found the electrical company had provided insufficient grounds for the man's dismissal and ordered it to reinstate the sacked worker or pay him £42,000 in compensation. It also noted that the company had failed to take into account the effect that the hot Murcian summer could have had on the man's drinking. The man, who had worked for the company for 27 years, was sacked in September of 2021 after a private detective hired by his employers followed him in his company van over the course of the few days that July. According to his dismissal letter on July 5th, the man and one of his colleagues had been observed stopping for a drink at a bar at 8:27 in the morning.
Oh, look at that.
He started
the day off right.
That's right. Although the detective did not specify whether that drink had been alcoholic. At lunchtime that day, the pair bought a loaf of bread, some food, 4 cans of San Miguel beer, and a liter bottle of I see I'm drunk talking about it. And a liter bottle of Estrella de Levante beer. Later that same afternoon, the man had been seen drinking another can of beer. A little before 6:30 p.m., he was seen buying and drinking another can of beer before driving back to the company's base in Murcia to leave the van there. Now, a fortnight later, he and 2 colleagues were seen drinking a total of 7 liters of beer between mid-morning and the end of their lunch break. Later that day, the man was spotted drinking 2 330 milliliter cans of Heineken. He went right for the gold there.
He did.
Before drinking another can of beer and heading back to the company's offices. 6 days later, Bruiser, he was seen drinking a 330 milliliter bottle of beer before lunch, before drinking 3 glasses of wine with his meal, followed by a shot of pumice brandy.
Got to get that brandy in there.
That's right.
And the lunch. Clear the palate.
Yeah, clear the palate, settle the stomach.
Yep, exactly.
Right? Yeah. The court, however, found the company's actions ill-founded. At no time did the private detective make mentions of signs of inebriation or clumsiness when it came to walking, it said in its judgment.
Well, they're missing the important fact. He's on the clock getting, even if he's not drunk, he's still drinking on the clock.
True. There is no proof, documentary, expert, or witness that unequivocally demonstrates that the man was under the effects of alcohol and was inebriated, intoxicated, or drunk, added the court.
I know a couple people that you can't tell when they're drunk.
True.
They're just good at it.
They also went on to say neither has it been proved, even circumstantially, that his physical or mental faculties were reduced or diminished during his tasks as an electrician, nor that he was impeded when he drove the company van at the end of the workday.
See, that's what worries me. He's drinking and driving.
Yeah. The court also said that the drinking had taken place almost exclusively during breaks in the working day and that the man and his colleagues drank together, whether in a healthy fashion or not, when they were also eating and needed to take refreshments.
Ah, yes.
See,
a good beer with a good sandwich. That's the best lunch.
Yeah. It said it had not been possible to determine how much beer the man had consumed and how much his colleagues had consumed, making it hard to gauge whether he had been over the limit to drive. In any case, there was nothing to suggest that his work had been impaired. The court added another factor to be borne in mind is that this relates to the month of July in Murcia and Cartagena, where the climatic conditions and the geographical habits should be considered in this case.
Yeah, the only problem I see with the geographical stuff is, yes, while you're outside drinking your beer and your wine and your brandy, it doesn't affect you because of the heat. But as soon as you walk inside, and he's an electrician, so I'm assuming he's going inside buildings, and the cool air hits you, that's when the drunk hits you.
Yeah.
I've been at many festivals where during the day we're just going to town, but as soon as that sun goes down, it all hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Now, let's compare that electrician and the amount that he drank and whether he was sober while he was working to this Toronto police officer and the 2 bags of cocaine he did in the parking lot and how sober he would be for the rest of his shift after he OD'd. I'm just saying.
He was working a double.
He was working a double. That's right. He could have walked it off, right? When the cool air hit you and you had 2 bags of yayo. I mean, you could still do your job, right? If you're still standing upright.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you may look like a powdered sugar donut, but, I think you can still do your job.
And all the tickets may have been written in a foreign language that he didn't know he knew.
Sure. Yeah. Well, no, there's that. We go to Toronto in Canada, folks. Yes, we go north of the border where the syrup is fine and the nose candy's even better.
It's the wrong kind of snow that cop had.
That's right. It wasn't winter, but it was snowing. A case involving multiple drug trafficking offenses was dropped on Tuesday. Believe it or not, the charges, yes, were dropped against the police officer.
What?
Yes. After a cop testified that he stole drug evidence and nearly died of an overdose in the police station's parking lot. That's right. He didn't even make it out of the parking lot.
You got to know your limit there, Bubba.
That's right.
Like if you're going to, don't steal too much.
Yeah, you know, a little.
Steal what you need. Don't steal it all.
A little vial, maybe 2 whole bags. Well, you might be.
And then just because you have the 2 whole bags doesn't mean you have to do it in one sitting.
That's true. Save some for later. Here's a PSA from your friends at True Crime Tuesday. 2 people facing jail time instead walked free from Ontario Superior Court due to insufficient evidence one day. I think it's been snorted, I'm pretty sure. One day after a former police officer admitted to stealing 2 bags of cocaine from evidence and ingesting its contents in the police station parking lot. This according to the Toronto Star. So yes, 2 people went free because there was insufficient evidence. The officer snorted it all.
Those drug dealers are like, man, we got to find that guy and send him a card.
That's right. A card? How about a proper Christmas gift? Do I remember that happening? No, I'm pretty ashamed of it, said Lorenzino Cenzoni, who's the police officer in question here. He said that in court in September of 2020 when the incident happened. I'm sorry, that's when the incident happened, September of 2020. Do I take ownership of it? Yes.
Okay, don't remember, but you take ownership.
That's right. Colleagues found Cenzoni with no vital signs inside his Jeep Wrangler. Oh, so he's living large on the hog there. And bleeding from the nose. So I think he had enough.
Yeah, that's her body saying, hey, man, we're done.
Believe it or not, Mr. Cenzoni has lived to the ripe old age of 52 years old doing 2 bags of coke. He was in an induced coma for a month afterwards after he had ingested fentanyl. That according to his blood work. There may have been fentanyl in the coke.
That's the thing nowadays is they're lacing stuff with fentanyl.
Yeah.
Pills, cocaine, all of it. So you got to be very careful because a little bit of fentanyl can kill you.
That's right. The drugs seized were obtained as a part of Project Sunder, an anti-gang investigation that charged 114 alleged gang members with 800 criminal charges. Crown prosecutors did not provide a reason for the drop charges, but the judge cited insufficient evidence.
Tim, if you can't trust your local drug gang, who can you trust?
Right. I mean, the stuff should be, well, it's going to be stepped on, but you would think you'd step on it with baking soda or, I don't know, flour.
Yeah, come on, drug dealers, do better.
Yeah, that's right. Be better. It's highly unusual in the face of Cenzoni's admitted theft and abuse of the property locker and drug exhibits that the Crown would proceed in the first place. A defense lawyer for one of the men whose charges were dropped told the Star Cenzoni has pleaded guilty to theft and unlawful possession of fentanyl and received a 2-month conditional sentence. It's unclear how his conduct will affect other cases related to Project Sunder. Around the same time, another police officer, former homicide detective Paul Warden, also took drug evidence from Cenzoni's division. How do you trust anybody in this division?
I was going to say, what division is this? Because I'm going to go commit a bunch of crimes up there.
So Paul Warden also took drug evidence from Cenzoni's division and others. He's rated others over an 18-month period. Warden admitted to stealing drugs from police evidence lockers 20 times, but was never charged. What?
How do you get away with that? How?
Evidently, the laws are a little looser up to the north.
I guess so.
Surveillance cameras have since been added to every evidence locker in the city, according to Global. So don't go robbing them in Toronto.
Oh, now they add the surveillance cameras.
Well, you got to stop.
Surveillance cameras have been around for how long?
You got to put a stop to it at some time, Bruce.
Yeah.
We continue on with 420. Of course, you're going to get a little hungry.
Oh, yes, of course.
So you're going to want
Taco Bell's still in business.
That's right. But there's some people who eat organic. And with that, there's Instacart. Somebody decided they needed an Instacart delivery. So what do? You call Instacart. Well, we know sometimes your driver might get, let's say, lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or deliver you the wrong stuff.
That's right. We go to Broward County, where one couple that was delivering Instacart groceries got shot at for driving to the wrong address.
We don't want those groceries.
We don't want fresh food. Bang, bang, bang. A couple in Broward County said someone shot at them after they ended up at the wrong address while delivering groceries for Instacart. Waldez Thomas told NBC affiliate WTVJ that he was delivering for Instacart on Saturday, and his girlfriend Diamond D'Arville was with him. The couple, now I'm noticing this. I actually have a friend who delivers DoorDash, and she brings her husband with.
Okay.
It's a security thing.
Yeah.
Because people are weird.
Oh, people are really weird.
Yeah, and they're violent too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't blame people if they go out with their significant other if they're delivering.
I don't either. If we order Instacart or DoorDash and I see two people in the car, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with me as far as I'm concerned.
Especially when it's a guy that's bigger than me. Like, oh, good, you're protecting that.
Yeah.
Whoever you're with. Good for you.
Exactly. So his girlfriend, Diamond D'Arville, was with him. The couple said they were on the phone with the customer trying to find her house, but ended up at a home on Southwest 178th Avenue. The couple said they saw a flashlight as they were about to drive off the property. He's like, "Who are you?" And we're saying we're with Instacart, D'Arville told the news station. Things quickly got to a terrible turn after the man got into his truck and pulled up behind the couple. Okay, boundaries at that point. Yeah, they left your house, you're fine.
Yeah, you don't chase after the Instacart people.
Right. I had seen.
Maybe he just hates Instacart. Maybe he's still waiting for an order from like last year.
I don't think so.
This guy just hates Instacart.
I had seen him pull out a gun, and that's when I said, we got to go, D'Arville told WTVJ. I was scared, I'm not going to lie. D'Arville said her car was hit several times. The couple said they decided to pull over about a block away from the home and called Davie Police in Florida. We were there for Instacart. We were trying to tell him, and he went about it the wrong way. Instead of just calling police saying, I have trespassers on my lawn, he decided to shoot, Thomas said. Davie Police told WTVJ that a gun did go off at the home on Southwest 178th Avenue, but no injuries were reported. A detective asked if we wanted to prosecute, and we agreed to do that. But he said since they didn't break any laws or do anything unlawful, they couldn't do anything because we were on their property. Again, Florida has a stand your ground law.
Yep, castle law, yep.
Yep. The couple said they want the man who shot at them to be held accountable. It's just not right. Even if you have a gun, I understand you're trying to protect your family, but you don't come outside shooting, D'Arville told the news station. We're telling you what we're here for. We're trying to leave and you're blocking us in. It could have just been our way, and they made it bigger than it was. Instacart released the following statement to WTVJ. They said the safety of the entire Instacart community is incredibly important to us, and we take immediate action when we receive reports of violence and threats of violence made against any member of our Instacart community. We have reached out to the shopper and will cooperate with law enforcement on any ongoing investigation. Instacart said they have added several safety resources for shoppers, and any incidents should be reported. Now, I'll show you the picture of this. This is just scary. I don't know what this guy was shooting, but look at the size of the hole in that bumper.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He had
That's a big caliber gun.
Yeah, he had a pretty high caliber gun as he shot at that.
Because that looks like an exit. I know it's the entry hole, but it looks like an exit hole, doesn't it?
It does look like an exit hole, yeah.
Yeah, that is huge.
Yeah, so it's pretty alarming, folks, that's for sure. We have just a few stories left today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. We're getting to the not safe for work part of today. So we're gonna forewarn you, get the kids out of the room if you're at work. It's time now to put on your headphones. So we're gonna warn you about that right now. We're still in 420 land.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
It is a holiday. Now, here's the deal, Bruiser. The animals are now getting in on 420. And the animals,
of course they are.
The animals
they saw the success of Cocaine Bear, and they're like, we got to get in on this.
That's right. And the animals are now deciding that, hey, you know what? We need to not only just get involved with doing the drugs, we need to get involved with selling the drugs.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. They're trying to make a few bucks, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to go to the zoo, so they want to.
That's right.
Provide.
Yeah, they want their own. They want their own crib, so to speak, their own pad.
Ziggy, get a job.
That's right. Oh, you don't want that kind of heat coming down on you. No,
I don't.
Yeah, you don't.
Talia, get a job.
Yeah, you don't want the DEA, breaking down your door at 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. Looking for the supply. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Get a legal job.
Get a legal job. Yeah, go get an accounting job. A lamb is found in a car. Yes, I said a lamb is found in a car with drugs worth 10,000 pounds on a Scots motorway.
Who owns a lamb?
I want to know how the lamb got on a Scots motorway.
Yeah.
Did they drive out there? Here's one of those. Yeah.
I don't know. They're pretty sheepish.
Oh, God. No. Believe it or not, it was a police dog that caught the lamb with the drugs.
Thank God we found the one police dog likes veal.
No. That's
lamb chops.
Lamb chops. Yeah, you screwed up your own punchline. Look at that. Police dog Billy was instrumental in finding the heroin and cocaine along the M74 on Saturday, as cops confirmed 3 people have been arrested and charged. I don't believe this for a minute. A lamb got caught with the goods.
Well, if you gotta hide it someplace they won't look.
I don't think they shoved it.
Lamb. Like, why else would you have a pet lamb?
I don't think they shoved it in the lamb, Bruiser. Let's get to the story so we can find out where the. Oh my God! A lamb was found in the back of a car on a Scots motorway, alongside roughly 10,000 pounds worth of Class A drugs. The baffling discovery was made around 6:10 p.m. on Saturday when police stopped a vehicle on the M74 northbound carriageway near Junction 3 in Glasgow. Police dog Billy was instrumental in sniffing out the lamb found next to a bag of chips. So maybe the lamb had gotten into the drugs and was a little hungry. Yeah. And indicated drugs were present in the motor during a search of the vehicle. So they had the drugs in the motor. Oh, that's bad.
And the lamb just sat there going, I'm not a bad man. I'm not a bad man.
Officers recovered heroin with an estimated street value of 7,000 pounds and cocaine with an estimated value of 3,000 pounds. 2 men aged 52 and 53 What is it with the older generation getting?
I was going to say, what's with the old guys getting into this game?
Yeah, and one woman, age 38. So they're getting the younger ladies. Were arrested and charged with drug offenses. They have been reported to the Procurator Fiscal. That must be how they do it over in Scotland. The lamb has now been rehomed by a local farmer.
And it was quoted as saying, "I'm not going back to that land."
No. Funny enough, the lamb has the sniffles. And inquiries are ongoing to establish now how it ended up in the motor. How the drugs ended up in the motor? Well, it wasn't the lamb who put it there.
And I don't think the lamb was in the motor.
No. Police Scotland spokesperson said officers in Glasgow have seized drugs with a potential value of £10,000 from a vehicle on the M74 northbound around 6:10 p.m. on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023. Officers stopped a car on the M74 northbound carriageway near J3. The 3 occupants of the vehicle were arrested, and a search of the car was carried out with an assistance from the dog unit. PD Billy entered the car and indicated drugs were present. Officers recovered heroin and an estimated street value. So road policing colleagues posted about the incident on social media, sharing a photo of the lamb and a positive drug test. They said, "Oh, you." Officers from Glasgow RP stopped this vehicle, not a Lamborghini, on the M74 J3 northbound yesterday. I'll show you a picture of him in a minute. They also said, in addition to this wee fella, roughly 10K in Class A drugs were recovered with assistance from @PSOS Dogs. That's right. He has his own Twitter handle. Driver further arrested for failing the roadside swap for cocaine. The lamb has been taken in by a local farmer, and inquiries are continuing to establish how the lamb ended up in the car. Well, he's probably put there.
Yeah, they probably coaxed them in.
They're
like, "Hey, we don't have any pillows. Come in here."
Oh, no.
You're good and soft.
Oh, they used them for a pillow. It's better than that My Pillow, I'll tell you that much. That thing's that thing's a bag of rocks. Here's the lamb.
Oh,
right
it's a cute little one.
Yeah. Look at him.
He looks high out of his mind.
He's a drug lamb. He's on the lamb for drugs. Yeah, that's him right there. Yeah. So let's move on, shall we?
Looks delicious.
Here's another Coke story for you. We're doing the rounds on 420. It's not necessarily marijuana. We're just going drugs in general today. A man was nabbed on a cocaine wrap and was doused in a mystery milky substance when he was arrested. I'm going to show you a picture here in a minute, Bruiser. Do you remember the Yellow Cool J song, Milky Cereal?
No, I don't.
I think he's living it.
What is that?
He looks like he took the money shot.
Yes.
Yeah, right in the face. Oh, yeah.
He took not just the face, everywhere. That's a group shot there.
That's a group shot. He's like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me.
I think he's a big Kurt Angle fan.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's
dumping the milk all over him.
Yep. Meet Anthony Coleman Hill. He likes it in the face, evidently. The 28-year-old Floridian was arrested this month for cocaine possession after police responded to a 911 call about a trespasser acting erratic. That's erratic. And
he was acting erratic, too, with all that white stuff all over his face.
And doing drugs outside a 7-Eleven in Orlando.
Well, of course. That's where you do drugs in Orlando.
Yeah, well, you just walk right in. You've got all the food you want, food and drink you want right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, right there at the 7-Eleven. Upon arriving at the convenience store, cops spotted Coleman Hill smoking what appeared to be illegal narcotics. Coleman Hill, who allegedly was displaying signs of narcotics impairment, no shit, Sherlock, reportedly said that he had been smoking Molly.
Ah, okay, yeah. That's a good time.
Evidently, Molly is 6'7" and loaded for bear. You know what I mean?
He was actually smoking Martin, Oliver, Lou, Lucky, and Jan.
And they were all loaded at the same time. A search of Coleman Hill yielded a small bag of cocaine from a pants pocket. Evidently his didn't go off either. No. According to an arrest affidavit, Coleman Hill was arrested on a felony drug possession charge and booked into the Orange County Jail, where he remains locked up in lieu of only $1,000 bond. This guy doesn't have $1,000 to his name.
Well, why?
Actually,
did they clean him up before the mugshot?
You tell me. If you're a cop and you could take a mugshot like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that would make its way around the precinct.
Oh, and it's made its way to the media as well. Coleman Hill, police noted, was transported to the jail without incident. The arrest affidavit offers no insight as to why Coleman Hill appears to have been doused in some kind of milky substance. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to post this on the description of the program. There's a link to this so you can get a look at Coleman Hill yourself and why he's doused in a quote-unquote milky substance. I'll tell you this much. There's no cereal in this milky substance.
No, there is not.
Nope.
And it's a little chunky.
Yeah. By the way, we are in our not safe for work.
Oh yeah, we're 100% into it with a guy walking around with that all over his head.
We continue on. We go to the happiest place on earth, where it's not so happy for some people.
Oh, Disney World?
Yeah, but there's a happy ending for one guy. Or is it a happy ending? A Walt Disney World cast member has been arrested for recording upskirt videos of guests.
Come on, man.
I know. And of all places, he's doing it at Hollywood Studios in the Star Wars section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you want to get upskirts of people that are, it's clearly older women with children, but they've been out in the sun all day. So it's the hot, humid Florida sun.
Oh, Bruiser. Really? You went there?
I know enough female friends where they're like, oh, you know, got to get a little bit of a blow dryer down there.
Oh, come on. Oh. Well, there went my appetite. A Walt Disney World cast member has been charged with video voyeurism after he was caught filming under a visitor's dress at Disney World's Hollywood Studios, according to court documents. He's either the biggest genius in the world or the stupidest man in the world, one or the other. It wasn't the first time that 26-year-old Jorge Diaz Vega of Kissimmee had secretly filmed women at the theme parks either.
Oh, yeah. He's done it before. Way to go. Let's just keep hiring him.
Yep. Evidently, he passed the background challenge, if there is one.
He'll be good for Galaxy's Edge. Put him there.
Oh, guess where he was? You say Galaxy's Edge. You may be close. Here we go. Diaz admitted to recording footage of looking up strangers' skirts and dresses for the past 6 years at Disney. Oh, he's been doing it for a while.
6 years.
6 years. This according to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Diaz estimated he had over 500 videos on his phone. That's right, ladies. You may be one of 500. Diaz takes the videos because it's hard to find them online, and they bring him sexual gratification. So you're an audience of one, luckily.
So this is the only guy in the world that can't look up porn online.
Yeah. He doesn't know how to find Pornhub, I guess.
Yeah, he does not know how to find his fetish online.
Yeah. He willingly showed some of his footage to law enforcement on his phone. He's proud of himself, I guess.
Hey, man, check out Princess Leia's panties. Look what I got, man.
Jeez. The videos were of multiple females who all appeared to not know they were being video recorded. What finally ended his guilty pleasure was when he got caught on March 31st. Diaz had been working in Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, which is a retail shop located in Galaxy's Edge. Ding, ding,
there
ding, ding, ding.
See? Yeah.
At Disney's Hollywood Studios. He filmed an 18-year-old woman wearing a black dress with black shorts underneath who was shopping for lightsabers with her fiancé.
So she's not even wearing underwear. She's wearing shorts.
Yeah. as well as other women, he admitted, when other cast members noticed what was happening and reported it. Well, good for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he is asking him to hold the lighting and the boom mic and all that so he can get a great shot.
When you've got a huge ring light at the end of your phone, you should probably, The 18-year-old woman told authorities he had no idea she had been filmed at the store. Diaz told authorities he had been diagnosed with an apparent condition. Oh, sure. That was redacted in the report. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Diaz has no other diagnosis, takes no medications, and knows right from wrong, the arrest report said. Otherwise, you're full of shit, is what the police are saying. He faces a third-degree felony charge of video voyeurism. He did not have an attorney listed in Orange Circuit court records. Diaz, believe it or not, isn't the first cast member or guest to be arrested for video voyeurism at Walt Disney World.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. In 2018, Eric King, a Walt Disney World cast member, was caught using a cell phone in an employee-only men's bathroom at Disney's Animal Kingdom and was charged with video voyeurism. Another cast member said he was at the urinal when he noticed King was filming him under the nearby bathroom stall. In another case, Yambo Zhang, I believe it is, a Chinese national, pleaded guilty to video voyeurism in 2014 after he took pictures of girls, between the ages of 4 and 7.
Yeah, no, that guy needs to go to jail forever.
Well, he was vacationing at the Magic Kingdom, that according to court records. And then they give for the latest Disney Parks news and info, follow WDW News Today. Let's not follow that news, shall we?
No.
Here's how you end sexy time if you're living with your ex.
Oh, okay.
You ready
for this? High five anymore?
No, it's not a high five. It's not a good job, dear. Wish that was us. You ruin the mood with a firearm.
That'll ruin it.
That'll get you unhorny in a minute. We go to South Carolina. South Carolina man who still shares a home with his former wife. Bad idea. In the book of bad ideas, that's the biggest bad idea.
Exes can't be friends right away.
That's right. In the history of bad ideas. A South Carolina man who still shares his home with his former wife was arrested on April 21st when he cocked a firearm and tried to ruin the mood as his ex and her boyfriend were having sex in a nearby bedroom.
That'll do it.
Yep.
If I'm the boyfriend, I'm like, yep, you got crazy ex. See ya.
Yeah. That's the only cock I'm going to hear today. As alleged in an incident report, Alan Riggs began banging on the walls of the Myrtle Beach duplex upon hearing Jolynn Wolfrey and her boyfriend having sex in the upstairs area of the house. Riggs and Wolfrey, both 24, are ex-spouses for approximately 2 years and live together.
Yeah, no, move.
Yeah. In addition to hearing Riggs banging on the wall, the victim and her boyfriend then heard the racking sound of a firearm and stopped. That'll do it. Yeah.
He'll go away. Just ignore it. Okay, yeah, there. Right there, baby. No, just ignore it. He'll go away. Right there. Okay, he's going to shoot us. We're done.
And I'm soft. Wolfrey said that when she later went downstairs, Riggs, gun in hand, threatened her life. When questioned by Myrtle Beach Police Department officers, Riggs reportedly said that he became upset when he heard the couple having sex and banged on the wall to try and get them to quit. But after that method failed, he went out to his vehicle and got his gun.
Because that'll make it stop real quick.
Yeah, that's right. It'll make anything stop real quick. It's a gun.
And you are dry as a desert now.
Riggs told cops that he then returned to the home and cocked his firearm. Then another cock went down and we all played taps. In what he said was an attempt to ruin the mood. After the upstairs activity stopped, Riggs returned to the couch and played his mobile phone game.
Oh, good for him.
Well, at least he was in the mood for something.
He's like, damn it, they're interrupting my Candy Crush time.
Police confiscated a 9mm pistol from Riggs, so his gun wasn't the biggest thing in the room, evidently.
But it was the only one cocked.
Riggs, who was booked in the county jail, or was booked into the county jail, rather, on a felony rap. I'll show you a picture of Riggs here in a second, is being held in lieu of $100,000 bond.
How's the other guy only get $1,000? This guy's got $100,000.
He's wearing his space shirt.
He looks so proud, too, doesn't he?
He does. I broke him up with my 9mm.
I stopped that shit. You want to hear about cock block? I cock blocked.
What's bigger, 9mm or 6 inches? Just wondered. Okay, our final story today. I can't believe I made this the final story. Why did I make this the final story? I think it's because it's a wannabe Floridian.
Ah, okay.
But he's from Minnesota.
You're quite a ways away from being a Floridian.
Yeah. The fun ends and felonies follow for a Minnesotan, a vacationer busted after a building break-in. It's a fun time to be drunk and have a fire extinguisher is the quote from this Minnesotan. We're so screwed up here.
Dude, what?
It's the cold weather. It's driven us all nuts.
I hear that.
This is what 35-year-old Minnesota resident Jordan Mulcahy said following his arrest early Monday for allegedly burglarizing a Florida office building and stealing alcohol and a fire extinguisher.
You know, you might need a fire extinguisher.
I don't know what for. Police say the vacationing Mulcahy broke a window and entered the Clearwater property, which was not open to the public. When a cleaning crew member confronted him, cops say Mulcahy said, "I'm leaving," and walked out the property's front door.
Don't call the cops. I'm on my way out. That's my bad.
Mulcahy exited with a trash bag of alcohol bottles in his right hand and a fire extinguisher in his left hand, according to a criminal complaint, which notes that the defendant showed an indication of alcohol influence.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you think you could do whippets off the fire extinguisher? That's why he grabbed it?
I think so, yeah. I'll show you a picture of the Minnesotan in a minute. He might be a Minnesota 8 or 9. He's probably a Florida 3. Not quite sure. Mulcahy was arrested around 12:30 a.m. and charged with burglary and grand theft, both felonies, and petty theft, a misdemeanor. He was booked into the county jail where he is locked up in lieu of how much bond, Bruiser?
$50,000.
Go a little lower.
$10,000.
A little higher.
$13,500.
$20,250. They wanted to make an example of a Minnesotan.
Yet the guy with splooge all over his face got out for $1,000.
That's right. Well, he'd had a hard enough time, you know what I mean?
He'd already taken a couple blasts, right?
That's right. So Mulcahy's also being held on a felony arrest warrant for failing to show earlier this month at a Minnesota court hearing in connection with his recent arrest for allegedly stealing a pair of laptops from a Best Buy store. That's as Minnesotan as you get right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going down to the Best Buy. I'm taking a couple of laptops, don't you know, for my gaming.
Got to get really good at that Warcraft there.
Yeah, no, we play Buck Hunt. On the,
Buck Hunt.
It's too cold to go out there and sit out there and look for a deer, so we're going to play Buck Hunt on the laptops we stole from Best Buy.
Going for that big old 30-pointer?
Yeah, 30-pointer on the Buck Hunt. After being read his rights Monday, Mulcahy, police allege, reportedly made incriminating statements.
Of course he did.
Including a request that he only be charged with the lesser crime of vandalism. He also declared, and I'll say it in a Minnesota accent, it's a fun time to be drunk and to have a fire extinguisher, you know.
It is a fun time.
Yeah. According to the complaint. The document does not indicate that or what plans Mulcahy had for the fire extinguisher, but they likely would have added to a rap sheet that already includes convictions for assault, property damage, fleeing police, theft, forgery, fraud, DWI, false imprisonment, making terroristic threats, assaulting a police officer, escape from custody, robbery, domestic abuse, and disorderly conduct.
Man, that guy covered all the bases.
Yeah, he's what we refer to in Minnesota as a dink. Yeah, he's the one we call there a gosh darn dink. You know,
we call him a repeat offender.
Yeah, here's the gosh darn dink right here.
He's a handsome man.
Oh, for Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably a Florida 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a Minnesota 8. Yeah. So that'll do it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals for today. Yeah, don't you know? So that'll do it for today for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Tomorrow on the program, we got that there supernatural news.
Going to share some supernatural news.
Yeah, over there. We got to talk about that there weird stuff. We got the aliens and the ghosts. We'll talk about cryptids as well. Bigfoot. UFOs. Bigfoot. You know, he's up there in northern Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's up there on a golf course. Yeah, I never seen him.
9 holes.
Never did see him up there, you know, but Oleans fan days, they were playing golf up there and they ran into him. They tried to play through, but nothing happened with him.
No, just let him go.
No, he didn't take their balls or nothing. So that'll happen tomorrow. We got that going on. We got supernatural news on Thursday. We have two people on the show with us. We have Kelsey Bolin will be with us, and Steve Sayre will be with us on Thursday. We'll be talking ghosts and the paranormal. They have a new documentary out, which is actually really, really fascinating. It has Dr. Raymond Moody in it. It has Jay Thomas in it. One of the most watched documentaries of 2022, released by Hollywood Pictures. It's a fascinating documentary. We'll have a link to it in the description of that program. And it has to do with not only life after death, but they talk about past lives. We talk about past lives in the program. They talk about string theory. They talk about quantum afterlives. They talk about different aspects of the paranormal, including remote viewing. We go into a lot of different things about the documentary on Thursday. So fascinating.
What's the documentary called?
It is called...
Just because I'm curious, because it's on Netflix, you said.
No, not on Netflix.
No?
No. We'll have a link in the description as to where you can get it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it. You can get it Amazon and other places right now. But it is called Ghosts in the Afterlife. Is what it's called. So Ghosts in the Afterlife. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Not tomorrow. We'll talk about that Thursday on the show. So that is on the show on Thursday. So
nice.
Yeah. So we've got Kelsey Bolin, who's a presenter in the show. And we also have Steve Sayre, who's the producer director of the show. And what's interesting, we talk a little bit about Jay Thomas, the famous comedian who was on David Letterman a lot, who passed away shortly after the interview he did.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he had a paranormal experience. And then he passed away shortly after he did his interview, which is interesting as well. So, lots of good stuff this week.
Yeah, lots of good stuff.
Yeah, yep. So, Bruiser, what you got going on this weekend?
I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, AML Wrestling. It's on Sunday the 30th, so I'll be out there. And then, of course, training the future of wrestling, Mondays and Wednesdays at the AML Training Center, amlwrestling.com. Sign up. Come train with me.
That's right. Folks, that'll do it for today. For Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in to True Crime Tuesday. And again, join us tomorrow for the best in paranormal podcasting, Darkness Radio. We'll see you tomorrow.